Ever feel like waking up trapped in a nightmare lottery is just your regular Monday? Welcome to Manhwa Novel Recap, where coffee breaks turn into sword fights and survival instincts kick in early. Grab your snacks, hit that like button to boost luck, and subscribe, because nightmares are better faced together. Now, let's dive right into the story. Frail, with the kind of skin that hadn't seen proper sunlight since the last ice age, Sunny sat on a rusty bench, nursing a cup of coffee. Not the synthetic sludge the slum rats like him usually got. Oh no. This was the real stuff, a luxury that cost him most of his meager savings. Why the splurge? Because, as Sunny well knew, his life was finally coming to an end. Not in a poetic, I'm moving to a farms kind of way. More like, I'm about to become monster chow kind of way. He took a tentative sip, savored the aroma, then immediately grimaced. Bitter. So bitter. He'd spent most of his last coin on this, and it tasted like a bad decision. Should have bought real meat, he grumbled, forcing more down. But hey, it'd keep him awake, and that was the whole point. He might be about to die, but he'd be alert for it. The house always wins. People rushed past. The well-fed, tall citizens of the inner city, staring at the haggard, thin kid in cheap clothes like he was some kind of street anomaly. And he was. He missed the garbage bin with his cup, then sighed and picked it up. Even in the face of oblivion, Sunny was too much of a cynic to litter. Inside the police station, the tired officer gave him the usual look of distaste. "Lost boy?" he barked. Sunny just looked around, taking in the reinforced walls, the poorly hidden turret nests. Good to know some things never change, even after the apocalypse. Then Sunny cleared his throat and dropped the bomb. As demanded by the third special directive, I am here to surrender myself as a carrier of the nightmare spell. The officer went from irritated to ghostly pale. Shit. He punched a button. Attention, code black in the lobby. I repeat, COD black. See, the nightmare spell isn't some new fad. It first appeared decades ago when humanity was already staggering from natural disasters and resource wars. At first, it was just fatigue. Then people started falling into an unnatural slumber. Then they started dying in their sleep, their bodies twisting into grotesque monsters. Governments panicked, but it was already too late. The nightmare creatures swarmed, and the world plunged into chaos. It was the Awakened, survivors of the spell's first trials, who finally pushed back. Armed with impossible abilities earned in their nightmares, they brought a semblance of order back to the fractured world. A fragile peace, built on the bones of the dead. For most, being chosen by the spell is a risk, but also an opportunity. Kids learn combat in school. Rich families hire private tutors, hoping their children will become powerful Awakened. Those from ancient clans even inherit powerful memories and echoes, giving them a head start in the dream realm. Because in this world the system is rigged. Always has been, always will be. But for Sunny, no family, no school, just scrounging for scraps. For him, being chosen by the spell wasn't an opportunity. It was a death sentence. Hope? That's a luxury Sunny can't afford. Minutes later, Sunny was yawning, strapped into a chair that looked like a sadistic hospital bed. Armed officers stood around him in a reinforced basement room, grim-faced. He barely noticed. All he wanted was sleep. Finally, an old, gray-haired policeman with eyes that had seen too much walked in. He checked the restraints. "Name, kid?" Sunny blinked. "Sunless." The cop raised an eyebrow. "Strange name." "At least I have one," Sunny mumbled, unable to shrug. "Born during a solar eclipse. My mom had a poetic soul, you see. Or she was just lazy." "Family?" Sunny just shook his head. "No one. Don't bother." The old cop's face hardened. "All right, Sunless. How long can you stay awake?" Not long. Then we don't have time for the full procedure. Listen carefully. You might have to kill them, kid. So do yourself a favor and just think about them as illusions. Because if you start thinking they're real, if you hesitate even for a second, that's when you become just another statistic. A lot of it depends on luck. The spell sets up trials, not executions. You're disadvantaged, yeah, but kids from the outskirts are tough. Don't give up. He was talking about the initial attributes and aspects you get. The classic RNG roulette. Will you get an OP ability, a cheat skill? Or will the universe just give you the ability to really appreciate fine art? Check your attributes and your aspect first. Combat-oriented is easier. If you're unlucky and get something useless, don't despair. Mostly. There are really no useless aspects. Almost. The old cop's voice was fading. Sonny's eyelids were heavy. If you die, a nightmare creature appears in the real world. My colleagues and I will have to deal with it. So, please don't die, Sunless. Sonny felt a flicker of warmth. The cop cared? Or at least try to not die right away. The nearest Awakened won't be able to get here for a few hours, so we would really appreciate it if you don't make us fight that thing ourselves. What? That was Sonny's last thought before the darkness swallowed him whole. And then, from the void, a voice, chillingly familiar, rang out, Aspirant! Welcome to the nightmare spell. Prepare for your first trial. So, what kind of trial do you think the spell has cooked up for a kid like Sonny? Reams of a mountain, jagged, lonesome, cutting the night sky like a broken tooth. A radiant moon bathed its slopes in a ghostly, pale light, revealing the skeletal remains of an old road. To one side, an impregnable cliff. To the other, a silent, black abyss. This isn't just a dream, folks. This is a nightmare spell initiation, and our MC, Sonny, is about to learn that even in the spiritual realm, the universe has a twisted sense of humor. Suddenly, time itself breaks. The moon falls. The sun rises from the west, streaks across the sky, and vanishes in the east. Snowflakes leap from the ground, returning to the clouds. Hundreds of years fly by in an instant, melting the snow to reveal human bones, scattered. Then even those are gone, replaced by a slave caravan moving backwards down the mountain, the clamor of chains, a chilling soundtrack. Time snaps back to normal, and the nightmare spell greets him, Aspirant, welcome to the nightmare spell. Prepare for your first trial. Trial? More like an instant death sentence, because Sonny is now living the nightmare. Bleeding feet, shivering from the cold, a threadbare tunic offering zero protection. His wrists? Agony. The iron shackles have torn his skin, and every touch of the freezing metal sends a sharp pang. This isn't the typical hero's journey start, is it? Usually, aspirants get a privileged caste or warrior role, a weapon, some agency. Our boy Sonny? He's a shackled, half-dead slave. This is survival stripped to the bone. He scans his surroundings. Dozens of hollow-eyed people, just like him, chained together. Ahead, a broad-shouldered man, back already bloody, walks with a measured gait. Behind, a shifty-looking guy is cursing in a language Sonny somehow understands. And then, the armed horseman, ancient-style armor, menacing glares. Things are really bad, but Sonny's not panicking. Yet. He's operating under the assumption that the spell, while challenging, is balanced. An abysmal start like this must mean a counterbalance. A powerful aspect, a cheat skill, a golden finger waiting in the wings. This is classic webtoon logic, right? So, he tries to pull up his status screen, concentrates, thinks status, myself, information, and boom. Shimmering runes appear. He doesn't know the ancient alphabet, but the meaning is somehow clear. He quickly finds the rune for his aspect, and that, my friends, is when he loses his composure. His name, Sunless. His aspect, Temple Slave. And the aspect description? Slave is a useless wretch with no skills or abilities worth a mention. A temple slave is just the same, except much rarer. What? What the actual F, he thinks. This isn't a powerful aspect, this is a cosmic joke. This is the opposite of a golden finger. No useless aspects, my ass. That thought, that surge of disbelief, costs him. He loses his rhythm, stumbles, pulling the chain down with his weight. Immediately the shifty guy behind him screams, Whore's bastard. Watch where you're going. Sonny scrambles, dismissing the runes, trying to recover. He manages, but not before inadvertently pulling the chain again. You little shit. I'm going to kill you. The broad-shouldered man ahead chuckles. Why bother? The weakling will be dead by sunrise anyway. The mountain will kill him, he adds. It'll kill you and me too, just a bit later. I really don't know what the Imperials are thinking, forcing us into this cold. The shifty guy gasps. Speak for yourself, fool. I'm planning to survive. This is the kind of camaraderie you get when you're all on death row, folks. Then a third voice, gentle and intelligent, cuts in from further back. This mountain pass is usually much warmer this time of year. We just had really bad luck. Also, I would advise you against harming this boy. Why? Because of his markings. He's a temple slave, born into it. The Empire destroyed the last temples of the Shadow God. And while the Empire's protected by the War God, these slaves? Not so much. Do they really want to risk angering a god, even a seemingly weak, forgotten one? That's a high-risk move, but sometimes risk is the only way out. Or, in this case, the way into more trouble. Their delightful conversation is interrupted by a young soldier on a magnificent white horse. Dignified, noble, and to Sonny's irritation, pretty. The kind of person who'd be the male lead in a historical drama. He asks, "What is going on here?" The gentle-voiced slave answers, trying to smooth things over. The soldier looks at Sonny with pity. "Bear with it a little more, child. We will stop for the night soon. For now, here, drink some water." Child? Sonny thinks. He's often mistaken for younger due to malnutrition, but this time, it really irks him. Still, he's parched. He reaches for the flask, and then, wham! A whip cracks in the air. Sonny is instantly in a world of pain, stumbling, pulling the chain again. The shifty slave curses. An older, angrier soldier rides up, his whip the instrument of Sonny's new agony. He skewers the young soldier with a disdainful glare. "What do you think you're doing?" The young soldier's face darkens. "I was just giving this boy some water. He'll receive water with the rest of them once we camp. But, shut your mouth. These slaves are not your friends. Understood? They're not even people. Treat them like people and they'll begin imagining things. Rule 1. Never trust comfort. Comfort kills." That moment of potential relief, that fleeting offer of kindness, was instantly, brutally revoked. The young soldier lowers his head, putting the flask away. The older soldier cracks his whip again, riding past, radiating menace. Sonny watches him go, his own eyes burning with a well-concealed malice. "I don't know how, but I will watch you die first." And then, a glance at the young soldier, still falling behind, head lowered. "And you, second?" His odds? Slim. But he's still standing. And plotting. What do you think, survivors? Can Sonny, with his temple slave aspect, really get his revenge? The air was clean, they said. Pristine. A luxury for the MC that felt like another cruel joke, another twisted blessing in this godforsaken nightmare. Out here, high above the dust and stench of the real world's outskirts, Sonny could breathe a little easier. But even good air felt like a lie when you were on a death march, chained to a line of dying men. The caravan dragged itself, a chain gang of the condemned, and when some couldn't keep pace, they weren't saved. They were just discarded. Tumbling into the abyss, Sonny watched them fall. A bit of compassion, they say, but mostly just the cold, hard fact of it. Another body for the void. Another lesson learned, you're next if you falter. Another nightmare. Another scar. It never ends. Coming to terms with dying at 17? Most can't. But Sonny did. Took him days. A couple of lines carved into an old tree for his dead parents, then a third for himself. And suddenly, he was relaxed, carefree. Because what more could they take? What else was there to fear when the worst had already happened? You see it, don't you? The profound, soul-crushing peace of absolute despair. Survival's not living. It's enduring. It's just waiting for the next hit. He knew what was coming, had seen it, piled bones, littering the snow, the monsters that would do them in, not days away, but hours. This wasn't hope. It was just a different kind of dread, a different kind of countdown. He pulled up his runes, searching for an edge, anything. This wasn't a golden finger, folks. This was a cosmic middle finger, his fated attribute. Meaning unlikely events, good and bad, were drawn to him, which explained his OP-level useless aspect, the temple slave. Then there was mark of divinity, another dead end. But finally, a crumb of something useful, child of shadows. The darkness recognized him, welcomed him, maybe because he already carried so much of it inside. As the sun dipped, he could see perfectly in the gloom. A small comfort. A cold comfort. They stopped, camped. A small clearing, somewhat protected from the wind, but still a frozen hell. Soldiers herded the slaves into a tight circle, forcing them to share the meager warmth of bodies of a bonfire. But the weakest, like Sonny, were pushed to the outer rim, backs freezing. The broad-shouldered slave next to him hissed about damn Imperials after failing to get closer to the flames. Icy water. A rock-hard, moldy piece of bread. Enough to survive, not enough to live. The shifty slave behind him, desperate, eyed the bright red berries growing from the snow. Bloodbane. A gentle-voiced scholar warned him. They grow where human blood was spilled. Poisonous. Even the land itself is soaked in the suffering of those who came before. A grim monument. Sonny didn't need the warning. He recognized this place. The vision. The bones. He knew the curtain was about to fall. Then the sound. A thundering noise from above. And a second later, something massive, something truly unthinkable, came crashing down from the sky. The final act. The last curtain call for these poor souls. And for Sonny? Just another deeper scar. What fresh hell has just arrived for our MC? What kind of monster waits in the shadows of this frozen mountain? Rocks and heavy shards of ice raining down like a death sentence. Most of the slaves? Panicking, tangled in their chains, dragging each other down. A classic rookie mistake. You see incoming artillery, you don't stand there screaming, you move. But Sonny, our man was ready. He'd seen this coming. He's got that street-smart paranoia, that survivalist's gut instinct humming. While others were getting shredded, he took one measured step back. That's the difference between a statistic and a survivor, folks. A piece of ice the size of a man's torso detonated right where he would have been. He didn't just survive, he predicted. Then, it hit. Not just a tremor, but an impact. Something massive, something that dwarfed them all. At first, it looked like a lump of dirty snow. Then it unfurled. 4 meters of pure, unadulterated nightmare. 2 stumpy legs, an emaciated torso, disproportionately long, multi-jointed arms ending in bone claws, and 2 more shorter arms with almost human-like fingers. And that wasn't even the worst of it. 5 milky, insect-like eyes, a maw dripping viscous drool, and worms wriggling under its skin. This wasn't just a monster, this was a violation. Our guy, Sonny, was right in the front row for this horror show. Most people would freeze, piss themselves, or both. But Sonny, he thought, well, that is just too much. And then he acted. The creature slashed, those sword-length claws coming right for him. But Sonny was already a step ahead. He didn't waste a single breath. He jumped sideways as far as his chain allowed, and conveniently, brutally, put the broad-shouldered slave right between himself and the monster. High risk, absolutely savage. But sometimes, risk is the only way out. Those claws sliced through the poor guy, showering Sonny in hot blood. He hit the ground, the corpse collapsing on him. Damn, why are you so heavy? He thought, temporarily blinded but still trying to roll the body off. This is survival stripped to the bone. You're not thinking about morality. You're thinking about breathing. Then came the real gut punch. As he pushed the corpse away, he felt it. Something wriggling under the dead man's skin. The creature hadn't just killed, it had infected. He immediately got as far as his chain allowed, 1.5 meters. Looking around, he saw the main monster still rampaging, but his focus was on this new horror. The shifty slave and the scholar were also shackled to this walking nightmare. Sonny screamed at them to move, but they were pinned, and right before their eyes, the broad-shouldered man's corpse began a nightmare-inducing metamorphosis. Bone spikes piercing the skin, muscles bulging, fingernails turning to claws, a face cracking open into a fanged maw. Sonny knew something was profoundly, catastrophically wrong. The spell, the nightmares, they had rules. Beasts, monsters, rarely a demon in the first nightmare. But this creature? It had just created a lesser version of itself. That's an ability of a tyrant, a sovereign of the nightmare spell. What in the blazes was a tyrant-level ability doing in a first nightmare? This is where you start looking at the MC's cheat skill, Sonny's fated attribute. Is this why things are going so spectacularly off-script? Is his presence somehow warping the very fabric of the nightmare to throw him into trials far beyond what should be possible? Because if it is, that fated attribute isn't just a golden finger, it's a direct ticket to a premature grave. But there was no time to ponder. Unfair or not, there was only one person who could save Sonny himself. As the mutated corpse, the Mountain King's larva, slowly rose, making sickening clicking noises, Sonny didn't hesitate. He cursed, jumped forward, grabbing the slackened chain. The monster's new arm shot out, but Sonny sidestepped it with a calculated movement. This wasn't quick reaction. This was the cold, hard logic of a survivor. He might not have learned fancy combat techniques, but the streets taught him to keep a cool head when death was knocking. He wrapped the chain around the sluggish monster's shoulders, pinning its hands. Before it could react, he wrapped it several times, barely avoiding its fanged maw. Good news? Hands pinned. Bad news? Almost no chain left between them. They were practically cuddling with a nightmare. "You two!" he screamed at the shifty slave and the scholar. "Pull on that chain as though your lives depend on it." Because they did. They pulled, tightening the grip. It was working, for a second. Then the monster bulged, the chain creaking, threatening to snap on the bone spikes. Not so great, he thought. So, Sonny went all in. He threw his hands up, grabbed the short, thin chain connecting his own shackles, circled the monster, and pulled, ending up back-to-back with it. He wasn't strong enough to strangle a normal man, let alone this thing. But now, using his own back as a lever, the weight of his whole body, he pulled down with all his might. Bone spikes brushed his skin. The monster struggled, clicking. It was a question of what would break first, the chain or the monster. Sweat and blood poured down his face. His strength, his stamina, everything was running out. Every second was an eternity. His body was screaming. And then, finally, the monster's body went limp, the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. "You have slain a dormant beast, Mountain King's larva." He just choked out a tyrant-level abomination's creation in a first nightmare, using nothing but a shackle chain and sheer desperate will. This wasn't just a fight. This was a statement. But what does dormant beast and Mountain King's larva really imply about the actual Mountain King? And how much more will Sonny's fated attribute push him to the brink? Let me know what you think in the comments below. You have slain a dormant beast, Mountain King's larva. And just like that, Sonny was on his knees, body screaming, every fiber protesting, yet somehow exhilarated. The kind of high that makes you forget all your problems, even the really juicy ones, like the fact that the spell, that capricious puppet master, decided not to drop a memory for our boy. No shiny new sword, no cool armor, not even a slightly used coat. Roll the dice. Oh look, he survived. Barely. But no loot. Classic. The game isn't over. It never is. Turns out, being attached by a chain to a corpse isn't ideal for a quick getaway. His two lovely companions, Shifty and Scholar, were still trying to untangle him from the recently deceased monstrosity. Around them, pure chaos. Limbs, screams, the sweet music of despair. Some slaves, bless their little cotton socks, were actually running. Fools. Utter, delicious fools. Don't they know that in a game like this, running from one danger only leads you into the waiting arms of another? Especially when that danger is a blizzard that promises a slow, icy death. And just when you think our MC might catch a breath, the Game Master decides to crank up the difficulty. 4 more twitching, grotesque corpses decided to rise. 4 more larvae, shambling and hungry. You can practically hear Sonny's internal monologue, "I want to wake up." Oh, Sonny, my sweet, naive boy, don't you know this is where the real fun begins? He wrapped the chain around his knuckles, spitting defiance. I love a good despair spiral, don't you? But then, a plot twist, a literal golden finger moment. Out of nowhere, the dashing young soldier, the one who offered water way back when, swooped in like a hero from a cheap romance novel. One flash of steel, and the first new larva was headless, clean, efficient, and totally annoyingly pristine. Sonny's inner thoughts bounced from awesome to poser, a true testament to the mind of a traumatized survivor. And then, the cherry on top, the soldier, bless his dramatic heart, tossed Sonny a small iron rod, a key. The key. The key to freedom, to unlocking those pesky shackles. Sonny, a quick study, fumbled with it, and with a satisfying click, he was free. Oh, the possibilities. That dark gleam in his eyes. That's the look of a player who just got a new cheat code. Let's raise the stakes, shall we? He could have left Shifty and Scholar to their fate. After all, what's the point of fairness in a game like this? But no, our MC decided to play the hero, just a little. Strength in numbers, he rationalized. Or maybe, just maybe, a tiny sliver of compassion still flickered in that cynical heart. Shifty, of course, immediately went full maniac, dancing around like a deranged pixie. Scholar, ever the voice of reason, pointed to the roaring bonfire. This wasn't just a fire, it was their lifeline, their warmth against the frozen embrace of the mountain. Running meant freezing. Staying meant facing the Mountain King. And what does Sonny do? Does he run? Does he freeze? No. He looks at the raging behemoth, the very source of their terror, and says, "Let's go take a look." Shifty thinks he's insane. But is he? Or is he just embracing the true spirit of the game? When the odds are impossible, when death is certain, sometimes the only way forward is straight into the jaws of the monster. What fresh hell do you think awaits Sonny as he approaches the Mountain King? Off to face a nightmare creature, folks. And not just any creature. We're talking a fifth-category abomination, a dreaded, fearsome tyrant. The Mountain King. Now, if you asked any sane person about Sonny's odds of survival here, they'd laugh you out of the room. Unless you were an awakened 2 or 3 ranks above this thing, which, spoiler alert, Sonny absolutely is not. And yet, here he is. He has to deal with this monster. Why? Because the alternative is an even more miserable death. His options are basically horrible or even worse. The man is so far past caring, he's probably got a frequent buyer card for the local abyss. What's there to fear when you're already as good as dead? It's not like you can get any deader. This is survival stripped to the bone. On the other side of the roaring bonfire, things are going from bad to worse. Most of the slaves, gone. A few soldiers are putting up a desperate futile fight, but it's clear they're on borrowed time. And then, right in front of Sonny's eyes, the tyrant picks up a dead slave, chain and all, opens that terrifying maw, one crushing bite, half a body, bloodied stumps, chews, indifferent, milky eyes staring into the distance. Just a casual Tuesday for the Mountain King. One soldier, seeing the creature's upper arms occupied, lunges forward, spear ready. Bad move. Without even turning its head, the tyrant extends a lower arm, snags the soldier's head in an iron grip, and squeezes. Skull. Soap bubble. Headless body tossed over the cliff. Gone. Shifty, our resident panic merchant, pukes his guts out. Then he glares at Sonny. Well, we've taken a look. Now what? Sonny just observes, head tilted. Shifty turns to Scholar. I'm telling you, old man, the boy is sick in the head. How the hell can he be so calm? Scholar shushes him, blood draining from Shifty's face as he slaps a hand over his mouth. They cast fearful looks at the tyrant. Luckily, the big beast is too busy feasting on the living and the already dead to notice their little spat. Sonny isn't calm. He's just operating on a different plane. He's in pure problem-solving mode. How do I get rid of that thing? No special powers, no army, not even a weapon. This is resource scarcity at its absolute finest. And then, a flash. A young soldier. Sonny's self-appointed heroic liberator tosses a burning piece of wood, raising his sword defiantly. Face me, devil. Sonny's internal monologue. A distraction. Just what I needed. He'd already figured he couldn't take down the Mountain King himself. He needed help. Not human help, mind you. He was planning to enlist a force of nature. Since I can't do the bastard in myself, let's make gravity do it for me. And then this pompous idiot shows up, providing the perfect cover. This was a high-risk move, but sometimes risk is the only way out. Come with me, Sonny barks, already running towards the far end of the stone platform, where a heavy wagon is perched dangerously close to the cliff edge. Shifty and Scholar share a dubious look, but they follow. Maybe they confused his cold calm for divine inspiration. After all, crazy people are often favored by the gods, right? Behind them, our hero ducks and weaves, slashing his sword uselessly against the tyrant's thick fur and tough hide. Not even a scratch. The tyrant moves with frightening speed, 4 hands reaching. Every second he buys is a lifetime for Sonny's plan. Sonny reaches the wagon. No larvae nearby? Good. He points to the 2 large wooden wedges under the rear wheels. When I tell you, remove both of them. Then, push. Understand? Shifty's face is a picture of dumbfounded confusion. What? Why? Scholar just looks from the wedges to the tyrant, putting the pieces together. Sonny just says, you'll see. Rule 1, never trust comfort. Comfort kills. And right now, comfort is a slow wagon. Next, Sonny is tracing the chain from the wagon, fumbling through bodies, blood, and viscera. Luck, for once, is on his side. He finds the torn end, grabs the nearest set of shackles, still attached to a horribly disfigured body, drops to his knees, fumbling with the key. A muffled scream. Hero is flying through the air, finally caught. But incredibly, he lands on his feet, slides, rolls forward, picks up his sword, then rolls sideways, narrowly avoiding a massive stomp. Rolling? Who the hell rolls around in this situation? Sonny curses internally. He really needs this idiot to stay alive a little longer. Finally, the shackles unlock. He shakes the dead slave out, locks the shackles around the chain itself, creating a makeshift slipknot and a loop. This is it. Everything depends on his resolve, hand-to-eye coordination, and luck. He screams to Shifty and Scholar by the wagon, now! Then, picking up a sizable length of chain, Sonny stands and faces the tyrant. Hero spares him a quick glance, his eyes lingering on the chain, then the wagon. Without a hint of emotion, the young warrior doubles his efforts, drawing the creature's attention away from Sonny. So he's smart too? What a scam. Sonny clears his head. Focuses on the weight of the chain, the distance, his target. Time slows. Please, don't miss. He spins, throws the chain like a fisherman casting a net. The loop opens, flying towards the fight. The plan, land it around the tyrant's foot, then pull to tighten it. But his plan failed spectacularly. It was, in fact, a literal spectacle. At the last moment, the Mountain King flinches back, and the chain loop doesn't land on its foot. It lands perfectly around its neck. A second later, it tightens. An iron noose. Sonny freezes, then clenches his fists, holding back a triumphant scream. Yes! Moments later, the wagon would roll off the cliff, pulling the tyrant down with it. He looks back to check and instantly turns even paler. Shifty and Scala removed the wedges, sure, but they're pushing, and the wagon is rolling, slowly, much slower than anticipated. Sonny turns to the tyrant, panic rising. The creature, surprised by the sudden weight, is already raising its hands to tear the chain apart. His eyes widen. In the next second, Hero crashes into one of the tyrant's legs, throwing it off balance, buying them precious seconds. Sonny is already running, cursing loudly in his mind. He throws himself onto the damp wood alongside Shifty and Scholar, pushing with every ounce of strength left in his small, beaten, exhausted body. Roll! Roll, you creaky piece of shit! The wagon speeds up a little, but it's still agonizingly slow. At the same time, the tyrant finally gets a hold of the chain around its neck, ready to free itself. Now, whether they live or not is just a question of which thing happens first. Will the wagon reach the edge, or will the tyrant free itself? What do you think happens next? Roll, you creaky piece of shit. Our MC, Sonny, was pushing with a desperation born of pure, unadulterated spite. 4 mighty oxen, now just so much nightmare fodder, had left the heavy wagon to be hauled by 3 weary, shackled souls. Even with the slope begging it to go faster, the thing crawled. Meanwhile, the monstrous tyrant that had decimated their caravan was moving with terrifying speed, battling Hero at the cliff's edge. This tyrant, the Mountain King, a creature of bone and nightmare, found its formidable claws were less than ideal for delicate chain manipulation. A classic OP monster, but with a surprising, almost comedic weakness when it came to finesse. It fumbled, giving our MC the precious seconds he needed. Then, with a final defiant shove, the wagon's rear wheels slid. Shifty and Scholar went flying, but Sonny, the scrappy survivor, held his ground. He cast one last wicked smile at the towering abomination, slammed his shoulder into the wagon's front, and sent it plummeting. Down went the wagon, scraping against jagged rocks, and down, yanked by the chain around its neck, went the Mountain King, flying over the edge like a rag doll. Victory. Or so it seemed. Sonny collapsed, utterly spent, waiting for that faintly familiar, elusive voice to declare his trial complete. But silence. Not the roar of triumph, not the whisper of the spell's judgment. Instead, wave after wave of pain crashed over him. The brutal cold, the lash marks from the slavers, the punctures from newborn larva spikes. A raw, agonizing symphony. I guess not, he thought, his mind muddy. The spell, it seems, demands more than just a well-placed shove. This isn't the first time the spell has chosen such prey, and it certainly won't be the last to test them to their breaking point. Enter Hero, the picture of pristine defiance, even amidst the gore. Scratched but unbowed, he offered a hand to Sonny. Stand up. You'll freeze to death. Our MC, ever the independent spirit, ignored the help but rose all the same. The first nightmare was far from over. Around them, a scene of utter carnage. The caravan was a graveyard of torn flesh and repulsive larva carcasses. Only the three slaves and Hero remained, huddled around a defiant bonfire whose shadows danced, utterly unperturbed by the morbid view. Shifty and Scholar eyed Hero with the weary apprehension of the chained, even if their shackles were gone. He was still the slave driver, after all. They settled around the fire, a motley crew of survivors. Shifty and Scholar clung to each other, wary of Hero. Sonny, our dear MC, sat apart. Not out of distrust for any one of them, but because, as we learn, he simply doesn't like people. But let's pause here, my friends, because to understand Sonny, one must look deeper. He isn't just some scrappy kid. Our MC possesses a peculiar solitude, an invisible wall. He's a misfit, constantly baffled by the nuances of human behavior, unable to truly connect. Some might call it a curse, others a hidden cheat skill. This strangeness, this almost alien detachment, has made him self-reliant, saving him from countless backstabs in a world where betrayal is as common as breath. Perhaps this very detachment is the unique burden and the unique blessing of his burgeoning class. Hero finally broke the silence, his voice firm. Once the sun rises, we gather what we can and go back down the mountain. Shifty, ever the defiant one, scoffed. Why? To be put in chains again? Hero sighed, ever the voice of reason. We can go our separate ways once we leave the mountains. But until then, I'm responsible. The mountain pass is too long without supplies. Going back is our best hope. Scholar surprisingly held his tongue, and Shifty, despite his bluster, seemed convinced. Then, the calm voice of our MC cut through the air, chilling them all. We can't go down. Shifty barked a laugh, quickly dismissing him as touched by the gods. But Hero, surprisingly, defended Sonny, reminding them of his bravery. I, for one, he said, would like to hear his reasoning. Tell me, why can't we go down? Sonny shifted, uncomfortable in the sudden spotlight, and delivered the face-slapping truth with an almost bored certainty. Because the monster isn't dead. What hidden truths do you think Sonny perceives that others cannot? And what fresh horrors await them in the depths of this nightmare? Because the monster isn't dead. Those words, hanging heavy in the freezing air, were a death knell. 3 pairs of eyes, wide with fresh terror, fixed on Sonny. This kid, the one everyone wrote off, just dropped a bombshell. And he was right. How did he know? Simple. He didn't hear the spell confirm the kill. No confirmation, no kill. That's rule 1 of the nightmare. If the system doesn't say it, it didn't happen. He couldn't tell them about his golden finger, of course. So, he spun a tale of logical deduction, pointing to the cliff. It jumped from an impossible height, unharmed. Why would a mere fall from this platform kill it? Flawless logic, delivered with a chilling calm. Even Hero, the stoic leader, couldn't argue. Which meant the tyrant was still out there, somewhere below, waiting. Going back was a death sentence. Their only option? Up and over. But Hero saw the bigger picture, the truly terrifying one. If the monster was alive, it was coming back. And it was coming for them. Time is of the essence, he declared. No rest, not a single second. They had to scavenge now. Food, water, warmth, firewood. This is survival stripped to the bone. Every resource is vital. Every step could be fatal. The group split. Hero, ever the pragmatist, was on butchering duty, carving up the fallen oxen. Scholar, clearly uncomfortable, was tasked with firewood. And Shifty? He was supposed to find warm clothes. But a survival expert knows better. You watch people when their backs are turned. And Shifty? He wasn't looking for clothes. He was greedily stripping rings off the dead. Rule 1, never trust comfort. Comfort kills. This guy's a liability, pure and simple. Sonny's mission, gather water flagons, and it led him straight to the old veteran, the one who'd whipped him. The man was dying, clinging to life by a thread. Irony indeed. The veteran weakly reached for a shattered sword. Sonny, with a cold, calculated efficiency that would make any seasoned survivor proud, picked it up. He honored his promise. He watched the man die. Then he ended it. A quick, brutal slit of the throat. No hesitation, no emotion, nothing at all. That's the chilling part. His cruel upbringing in the real world had forged him into something truly adapted for this nightmare. This isn't just about physical survival. It's about the psychological toll, or in Sonny's case, the unnerving lack thereof. And then, the spell whispered, "You have slain a dormant human, name unknown." A kill confirmed. And with it, you have received a memory. This is it. The OP ability, the cheat skill, the golden finger coming through. Sonny was practically vibrating with anticipation. A weapon? An enchanted item? Something to turn the tide. Sitz received a memory, silver bell. A silver bell? A small memento of a long-lost home, whose clear ringing can be heard from miles away. Oh, the exquisite pain of the universe's cruel humor. What a piece of crap. This is the kind of anticlimax that makes you want to throw your monitor. His first memory. Useless, just like everything else he possesses. The universe really seems to be rigging the game against our MC. But Sonny isn't one to wallow. He dismissed the runes and got to work. The dead man's fur cloak and sturdy leather boots. Those are pure gold in this freezing hell. A small boost to his resource management, a crucial warmth that could mean the difference between life and death. He's finally warm. He scanned the shadows with his tenebrous eyes. Hero and Scholar were still grinding. Shifty was still pilfering. The stark reality of his unreliable companions hammered home. The future was a complete gamble. Every decision was a roll of the dice. But he had to keep rolling. He had to keep moving. They huddled by the bonfire, exhaustion warring with terror. No one slept. The thought of the tyrant returning was too potent. Only Hero, the absolute rock, calmly sharpened his sword, the sound a strange comfort. At dawn, with the sun lazily warming the air, they loaded up their meager supplies. They were heading into the unknown. Sonny had made it past the initial death trap. Now, what fresh hell awaited them? What do you think is the biggest threat facing Sonny and his group right now? The monstrous tyrant, or the unreliable, self-serving nature of his own companions? There was a problem. The road, their only way out, just wasn't there anymore, obliterated. Another path to nowhere, another dead end in a world designed to break you. You stand on the edge of a chasm, staring into the void, and you realize, this is it. This is the new normal. Another nightmare. Another scar. It never ends. And then the real monsters start to show their faces, not the ones with fangs, but the ones with the fear in their eyes. Shifty, quick to point fingers, eyeing Sonny like fresh meat. Dead weight, he calls him, cursed. Funny how quickly humanity sheds its skin when death whispers in your ear. Sonny knows the truth, though. It wasn't him bringing the curse. He just got caught in the undertow of a caravan already drowning. Even Scholar, the wise one, had that calculating coldness in his eyes. He's seen enough to know everyone has a price, and sometimes that price is someone else. But then Hero steps in, a rare moment of something almost resembling honor. We're not leaving anyone behind. A nice sentiment, but in this world, sentiments are just more weight to carry. So, the new plan? Climb a mountain. Because, of course, when everything else goes to hell, you just find a steeper, more impossible hell to crawl through. Sonny, already barely holding on, has to make the call. That short sword he found? Gone. Every gram, every ounce, becomes a ton when your body's screaming, when your lungs feel like they're about to implode. You don't survive this. You just last longer, one agonizing step at a time. He tries to think of something pleasant, something good. But what good is there left? Some things you never come back from. Even breathing feels like defeat sometimes. Instead, his mind goes to the first nightmare. The promise of power. The boon. You endure this hell, and the spell gives you what, exactly? The ability to see soul cores, to rip soul shards from the dead to make yourself stronger. It's a cannibal's feast, isn't it? Devour others to live. Then you become a dreamer, a sleeper, destined to spend half your life in the dream realm. A month, Sonny gets. A month to prepare. Prepare for what? More nightmares? More endless suffering? And the aspect ability. The magic power. The cheat code they promise you to survive this broken world. But here's the kicker. The real punch to the gut. Every single OP ability comes with a flaw. A counter. A price. Could be harmless. Could be crippling. Could be fatal. So you get your shiny new power, but you also get a built-in self-destruct button. The real monsters? They're the ones you carry inside. The ones the spell gives you. You trade one prison for another, don't you? Sonny wonders what a temple slave gets. Not optimistic, of course. He just hopes his aspect evolves. Maybe an awakened rank, or even ascended. After all this crap, the spell owes him, right? Like it has a conscience. Funny. He doesn't even bother with the true name. Forget excellence. Give him power. Give him just enough to endure the next nightmare. But even that wishful thinking just makes him more depressed, more angry. Maybe he's allergic to dreaming, an allergy that's going to kill him. Because the sun is sinking. The air is getting colder. And the night, it's coming for them. Again. It always does. What kind of flaw do you think the spell is cooking up for Sonny? Let me know in the comments. They were cooked. Fried. Absolutely done. After hours of grinding up that brutal mountain slope, Sonny was barely holding on. But here's the kicker. Shifty, the loudmouth, the one you'd expect to have more grit, was straight up collapsing. His eyes were unfocused, his breathing ragged. This wasn't just exhaustion, folks. This was the mountain fighting back, and Shifty was losing the battle. Rule 1, never trust comfort. Comfort kills. And right now, these guys had zero comfort. When Hero finally found a spot for camp, Shifty just crumpled. No cursing, no bravado, just a silent, desperate gulp from his water flagon. And what did Hero, ever the pragmatist, say? Conserve your water. A crucial piece of advice in any survival scenario, because resources are finite, and panic makes you burn through them faster than a dumpster fire. But Shifty. He chugged it all, reckless. A clear sign he was already past the point of rational thought. Scholar wasn't much better, pale and sweaty despite the biting cold. But Sonny, the supposed weakest link, the MC with the secret sauce, he was somehow enduring. This kid's got a hidden well of tenacity, or maybe just a higher pain tolerance than the rest of this crew. The big question, of course, was water. Can't we just melt snow? Sonny asks, a perfectly logical question for a newbie. But Hero, the seasoned veteran, drops a truth bomb. There might come a time when we won't be able to make a fire as to not attract unwanted attention. Translation? The Mountain King is still out there, hungry, and fire is a giant neon sign screaming, "Fresh meat here." This isn't a game. Every decision has life or death consequences. Luckily, Hero picked a smart spot, a natural alcove hidden from prying eyes. They roasted some oxen, ate in silence. By the time darkness swallowed the mountain, Shifty and Scholar were out cold, lost in their own nightmares. Hero took first watch, telling Sonny to catch some Z's, but with one critical instruction. Don't let the flames go out and wake us up once the sun starts to rise. Or if the beast appears. Classic, you're on point order. And then Sonny was alone. Just him, the biting cold, and the vast, silent darkness. He looked down, saw the distant stone platform, the tiny dots that were the dead slaves. And then the Mountain King crawled into view, slowly, methodically, feasting on the fallen. This is survival stripped to the bone. You're watching your predecessor's demise. Then, the slip-up, a small rock, a tiny sound. But in that dead silence, it was like a cannon going off. The Mountain King turned its head, stared right at Sunny. My heart stopped. Your heart stopped. Sunny's heart definitely stopped. But then, the monster calmly turned away, went back to its gruesome meal. And that's when Sunny, our boy, had his OP observation moment. It's blind, he realized. The milky, unmoving eyes. Its reaction only to the sound of the wagon falling earlier. This isn't just a discovery. This is a golden finger moment for his brain. He just unlocked a massive tactical advantage against their biggest threat. Suddenly, the entire landscape of their escape changes. Dawn broke, but hope didn't. Shifty and Scholar were somehow worse. Shifty was ghostly pale, shaky, barely coherent. "Mountain sickness," Scholar rasped, though it sounded more like a death rattle. Hero, ever the leader, lightened Shifty's load, a calculated move to keep the team moving, even if it meant more burden for himself and Sunny. "Did anything happen while we were asleep?" Hero asked Sunny. And Sunny, perhaps still processing his terrifying revelation, perhaps fearing Hero wouldn't believe him about a blind monster, only gave him half the truth. The monster ate the dead. Hero's frown deepened. He looked down, confirmed it, and then the urgency kicked in. We'll have to move faster. If the creature is finished with all the bodies, it will come for us next. A logical, tactical response to the information he was given. But imagine if Sunny had revealed the full truth. They climbed, higher and higher and higher. Each step was agony, each breath strained. Sunny was dying under the added weight, even with Shifty's reckless water consumption lightening his load a bit. This was hell. And then, the scream. Shifty. His foot slipped on ice, a desperate, flailing struggle. They could only watch, frozen in place, as he tumbled down the unforgiving slope, a rag doll leaving bloody streaks, until he finally hit a protruding rock, becoming a pile of broken flesh. Shifty was dead, the first one down. This nightmare just got real, folks. What do you think Sunny should have done differently? Should he have told Hero about the Mountain King's blindness? Standing motionless, staring down at the broken remains of Shifty, or what was Shifty. The silence wasn't shock, it was calculation. Scholar broke it, not with grief, but with a chillingly practical observation. Good thing you took most of his supplies. Cold? Absolutely. But in this nightmare, it was the kind of ruthless efficiency that keeps you alive. Sunny, our young survivor, saw through Scholar's quickly donned mask of sorrow. He knows the drill. People who act kind for no reason are either fools or monsters. Scholar is no fool. This is survival stripped to the bone, and Sunny's cynicism is his best defense. They left Shifty behind, climbing higher into the desolate, wind-lashed mountain. Every step could be fatal. The air was thinning, slamming into them like an invisible wall, making every breath a struggle. Altitude sickness, a silent killer, doesn't care if you're a seasoned warrior or a street urchin. It just slowly suffocates you, leaving you dizzy, nauseated, and vulnerable. And then there's the cold, a creeping predator, rendering their furs and clothes useless. This mountain isn't just a place, it's an active threat, designed to break you down, piece by agonizing piece. But then, a glimmer of hope. The path. Weathered, narrow, barely a cut in the rock, but flat. Scholar, gasping like a fish on a deck, even managed a faint, triumphant grin. Told you? A moment of comfort, a fleeting breath of relief. And remember Rule 1, never trust comfort. Comfort kills, because that's when Sunny noticed it. The blood was still there, a grim stain on the rocks below, but Shifty's body? Gone. Vanished. The implications hit them like a physical blow. The monster wasn't just out there, it was following. It was close. Scholar, ever the pragmatist, quickly laid out the options. The beast is either smart enough to track their destination, or it's following the scent of blood. Either way, they need to throw it off. And his solution? A tactical masterpiece of depravity. We'll just have to make the boy bleed, drag him down the path, then leave him there as bait and go up instead. His sacrifice will save our lives. This is the moment Sunny knew was coming. All that false benevolence from Scholar? It was just a calculated investment. Keep the kid alive, because he might prove useful later. useful as monster chow. Sonny's grim affirmation of his own judgment, even as he stared down the barrel of becoming bait, is a testament to his hardened psyche. Now, all eyes turn to Hero, the young soldier. He's the wild card. Will he uphold some semblance of humanity, or will the crushing weight of survival in this nightmare force him to embrace Scholar's vile, yet undeniably effective, plan? His hesitation is palpable. Sonny, meanwhile, is already running the numbers, weighing his chances against a half-dead Scholar and a potentially compromised Hero. What choice would you make in their boots? Hanging in the air, that obstacle was Hero, looking down, completely unreadable. Sonny, our boy, had no clue what was churning in that perfectly sculpted head of his, and that uncertainty? It was a slow poison. Finally, the silence broke. Hero had but one question, and for a moment both Sonny and Scholar held their breath, waiting for the axe to fall. Then it dropped. You said one of us must be sacrificed. Why him? You're far closer to the grave yourself, old man. Oh, you could practically hear the collective gasp. Sonny was trying desperately not to grin. This was it, the face-slapping moment for Scholar. But, hold on, the old fox had an answer ready, because of course he did. He pulled out the ultimate trump card. Sonny already reeked of blood. From the whip, from a dying slave, from a dead master. Keeping him alive, Scholar argued, would put them all in danger. And just like that, Sonny's hopeful grin withered and died. Curse Scholar and his big brain. His logic was appallingly, sickeningly solid. Hero listened, his expression darkening, then looked at Sonny, a dangerous light in his eyes. That is true. Cold sweat for Sonny. He tensed, ready to make his move, because hesitation is death. But then, Hero smiled. The kind of smile that sends shivers down your spine. Your logic is almost unassailable, he said, as his sword slid free. However, you fail to account for one thing. Scholar, ever the confident one, raised an eyebrow, trying to hide his own nerves. What might that be? And this is where Hero truly earned his name. He turned, the smile gone, replaced by thick, palpable killing intent. It's that I know who you are, Your Grace. I know what you've done. Just one of your revolting crimes would be enough to make me want to kill you. So if someone deserves to be sacrificed, it's you. Scholar's eyes went wide. But the smell of blood! Don't worry, Hero promised. I'll make you bleed enough to overpower whatever residual scent the boy carries. Boom. It happened so fast, Sonny barely registered it. Hero, moving with almost OP speed, lunged. One strike from the flat of his sword and Scholar was shrieking on the ground, his leg broken. Before he could even process it, Hero stomped on the other, a sickening crunch echoing in the air. The shriek turned into a sobbing howl. Just like that, Scholar was done for. The sheer brutality, the cold contrast to Hero's usual grace, froze Sonny's blood. This was terrifying. Hero gave Sonny a calm look, a placid tone in his voice. Wait for me here. Then he dragged the old slave away, disappearing behind a rock. Moments later, terrible screams echoed on the wind. Sonny was left alone, trembling. This was too much. The ruthless speed of Scholar's demise was simply chilling. When Hero returned, he acted as if nothing had happened. That normalcy was the most unsettling part. He rummaged through Scholar's rucksack, tossed out most of the firewood, and then, completely nonchalantly, looked at Sonny. Let's go. We need to hurry. Now there were only two of them, and Sonny, surprisingly, felt a strange pang of loneliness. Walking the path was easier, his mind drifting. A feeling descended on him. The end of this nightmare was near. Hero broke the silence first. Don't feel guilty. It's not your fault. The decision was mine. He was a few steps ahead, his face hidden. Besides, if you knew this man's sins, it's better you don't. Trust me, killing him was an act of justice. Sonny just let the words hang there. Justice? He mused. These so-called heroes, always trying to rationalize their actions, desperate to maintain an illusion of righteousness even while doing the most foul things. The hypocrisy was thick enough to cut with a knife. Hero, getting no answer, chuckled. You don't like to talk, do you? Fair enough. Silence is gold. They walked on, each lost in their own thoughts. The sun dipped, painting the world in crimson, a truly beautiful sight. But Sunny only thought of the impending cold. Before it hit, Hero found them a narrow crevice leading into a small, well-concealed cave. Sunny moved to start a fire, but Hero stopped him. "No fire tonight. The beast is too close. Not pleasant, but better than being a beacon for whatever horror stalked the mountain." They settled in. Hero seemed downcast, thoughtful, even neglecting his sword. A first. As darkness enveloped the cave, Sunny's perfect night vision meant he could still see everything, while Hero was blind. Hero's handsome face looked noble but sorrowful. Sunny studied him, not daring to sleep. Then Hero spoke, quietly. "You know, it's strange. Usually, I can feel someone's presence, even in absolute darkness. But with you, there's nothing. It's like you are just one of the shadows." He smiled into the void. "Are you asleep?" the question echoed. Sunny, who never spoke to Hero unless absolutely necessary, felt a strange intimacy in the darkness. Maybe it was the courage the dark gave him, but he decided to speak. There was an occasion for it. "Why?" Sunny asked, his voice cutting through the quiet. "Are you waiting for me to fall asleep before you kill me, or will you do it in the morning? What do you think is going through Hero's mind right now? And what does Sunny's question say about his own survival instincts? Let me know in the comments.